35th Amendment to the Constitution, Water and Public Ownership, Number 2, Bill 2016, the second stage. I now call on Joan Collins, Deputy, to move to the second reading.
Thank you very much, Les Cancora.
Do you move that the bill be read a second time?
I move the bill be read a second time. And I want to begin by thanking all of the parties, groups and independent deputies that have indicated their support for this bill, advocating a referendum on the public ownership and management of our water. It's called the 35th Amendment of the Constitution, Water and Public Ownership, Number 2, Bill 2016. And it specifically says, the Government shall be collectively responsible for the protection, management and maintenance of the public water system. The Government shall ensure in the public interest that this resource remains in public ownership and management. I am also pleased that the Government has decided not to oppose the bill and have allowed it to proceed to committee stage without a vote. Although it is important to say that such a vote would have been comfortably carried. This bill, which was drafted in conjunction with the Right to Water campaign, does not belong to me or any other politician or party. It belongs to people in communities across Ireland, as does the water it protects. The bill's progress thus far is a reflection of the power of a movement, the largest in the history of the state, and one in which many of us in this House have had the privilege to participate in. At the same time, there were many here who simply did not get the message of right to water, who did not understand its significance or the scale of its support. The Right to Water campaign was about much more than water charges. It was a movement against austerity and the politics that underpinned it. One that showed that everyday people can change society when they get active and when they get organised. But first and foremost, it was a mass movement by ordinary citizens against what they correctly saw as the first step towards the privatisation of our water services. Therefore, the amendment proposed in this bill gives a voice to that central demand that our water services should remain in public ownership, and I want to stress public management. It's a really important part of this bill. It was drafted by Trasa Brannick O'Killen with the assistance of Senior Counsel Seamus O'Tuathail. It places responsibility on this Government or any future Irish Government to ensure that both the ownership and the management of our water remains in public hands. By placing the amendment in Article 28 of the Constitution, it would give a guarantee to the citizens of this state that the public water system will not be privatised. This is the proper place for the amendment, alongside departments of state such as healthcare and education, befitting of the importance of water to life and to society. I want to say very clearly that this amendment does not deal with group water schemes. By specifying the public water system as its concern, it does not seek to bring citizens private water schemes or systems built for private use within the remit of the Government. The amendment also does not intervene into the legislative framework. It does not seek to abolish water charges or Irish water. Although I may maintain my position to these, they will be battles for another day after the report by the expert commission. The amendment will, however, guarantee that the Irish Government is responsible for our water and its management, from the bodies of water connected to the provision of public water to all systems from collection to distribution, including wastewater systems. If it is passed, these will be the sole responsibility of the Irish Government. Sorry, you've been prepared to listen to the contribution. If it is passed, these will be the sole responsibility of the Irish Government. It cannot sell them off or pass them on their management to for-profit companies. This will be a victory for everyone in this country who believes that water is a human right and not a commodity. But this amendment would also be a blow against privatisation. In England and Wales today, because of the privatisation of water, 23.6% of people live in a state of water poverty. Private water bills have skyrocketed more than 300% since the system was privatised, while 19 private water companies make annual profits in excess of €2 billion. This situation must not be repeated in Ireland. But in Ireland, too, there has been a nightmare experience of privatisation. We have an unprecedented homelessness crisis in this state today, something that is directly attributable to the selling off of public housing stock and the turning over of housing lock, stock and barrel to the market. Then there is the case of refuse charges, privatised after a similar attempt to introduce charges, which has resulted in sky-high rates, bad wages and conditions for workers, a lockout and increases in illegal dumping. All of this is before we get to the case of Telecom Éireann and Eircom, an essential public asset sold off at a cut-rate price, which today is starved of investment and leaving the public lacking in the infrastructure needed to build a modern economy. But this is not the only damage done by privatisation. It has also played a key role in corroding the public sphere, the ties that bind us together in society. I think, given recent events in America, there will be a lot of discussion in the coming days about the crisis of democracy and why people are so angry. It would be a mistake to have that conversation without talking about what has changed so fundamentally in our economies in recent years. It is not only the fact that people's jobs, wages and services have been cut, although they certainly have. It is the philosophy that underpins this, the view that the market is the best way to produce and distribute goods. This has been used to shrink the terrain of public goods in our economies, and this is an attack on democracy, because when smaller and smaller proportions of the economy can be owned in common, fewer and fewer decisions can be made in common. The people are disempowered. We need to respond to this moment with a defence of the commons, the part of society that we, the public, own and share. Water is at the forefront of this battle. Finally, being realistic, I understand that there are likely to be attempts to dilute the wording of this bill as it goes to committee stage. The best defence against this will be the vigilance and pressure of the Right to Water movement, which will secure the passage to this stage. Both the everyday people who make up its activists and the trade unions, Unite, Mandate, the CPSU, OPATSI, the TWU and my own union, the CWU. I was also very pleased that we got the support for this bill from the country's largest trade union, SIPTU. For members of this House or the Seanad, all I would say is there is only one thing you need to believe, that the public water system should remain within public protection, ownership and management, and should not be sold off to private enterprise or the pursuit of profit. If you can agree with this idea, then we call on you to support the bill as it is, without any change to it.
Margaret Deputy Collins.